With the first core complete, now feels like a good time to address the newest season of Precure. Hirogaru Sky has been a breath of fresh air, and it really brings out the series' strengths. It manages to borrow from what worked while enhancing it with its own flavor. Despite that, the series is making its own mistakes, and while good, is far from perfect. Let's talk about the first thing I want to talk about is the characters this season, and we're gonna start with our lead. Sora's been an incredible lead, and I think she's a great introduction to Skyland. This gives us a really unique beginning with an action scene showing how determined she is. Despite being a human, she's willing to fight the villain, save the princess, and genuinely risk her own life. We've seen Cures fight pre-transformed, but never this intensely. She reminds me a lot of Mana, who was willing to throw herself in danger's way just to save another. However, Sora's not a perfect hero. Her flaws have been pretty well explored this first core, and her main one would be her loneliness. Well, not her loneliness, but Mashiro is Sora's first friend, so when she becomes Cure Prism, Sora is very protective and unwilling to let Mashiro get hurt, and this stems from Sora's childhood. As a child, Sora was focused on becoming a hero. This kept her from making friends, and it's telling that we don't see her family in these flashbacks. This shows that Sora was pretty lonely, so meeting Mashiro probably changed her life, and as her first friend, she matters to Sora more than anyone. Mashiro is our second MC, and she's also around from pretty early on. If Sora's our introduction to Skyland, Mashiro introduces us to the human world. She's a shy girl who meets Sora when she falls from the sky. As Sora's friend, the two go through a lot together and get very close. Mashiro helps to carry Elle around and gives Sora a place to stay. She also lives with her grandmother Yo-Yo. It's a pretty economic cast, with the two girls taking focus and Yo-Yo being the sole older guardian. The story takes its time to establish their friendship as they learn to live and work together. By the time they're a team, Sora feels genuine fear over losing her. This is the kind of story we just couldn't get when the teams were forming faster. Mashiro feels a lot like a tamer Yui with the cooking and the colors. I really enjoy her so far, and her bond with Sora really carries the show. She's the heart of the team, supporting both Sora and later on, Tsubasa. She's pretty kind, and I love that she's the POV for the episode recaps. Hage is our third character, and she appears in episode 4 as Mashiro's childhood friend. Giving Mashiro a friend grounds her in this world, and the fact that they don't meet much introduces the theme of distance. She's a great character with a more grounded perspective due to her age. She's already 18, so she's applying to train as a teacher. She's got a great design, but more importantly, she knows Mashiro better than Sora. She's the one who needs to cut through her insecurities. Hage is also a legal adult, so she helps the girls drive around and really opens up where this story can go. Lastly, we've got our first ever male cure, Tsubasa. Well, the first official one, at least. Tsubasa is a bird from the Puni tribe who is unable to fly. I think it's pretty funny they went with a bird and then made its dream flying. He's also introduced pretty early on, giving us time to get used to him and build some intrigue. Now when I saw his human design, I thought it was ugly, and I still do. The little poop on his head almost feels intentional since, birds do that. I have gotten over the winged emo bang because it represents him well though. Tsubasa has the desire to protect Elle and act as her knight. This culminates in one of the greatest two-parters yet. Watching him sacrifice himself for Elle was really heart-wrenching, probably one of the darkest moments in the season. Cure Wing is also a great addition to the team. As the only Cure who can fly, he helps a lot with the combat, and as an orange Cure, he adds more color diversity to the team. He gets an episode with Ageha, which is alright. I don't care much for them, but it's nice to see the group's inner dynamics examined and expanded. The way they've brought the team together almost feels like fate. Everyone was connected all along. The idea of anyone becoming a Precure is still present though, since Wing is a boy and Ageha's a legal adult. It is a bit convenient that pretty much all the Precure have had some contact with Yui's house. Almost makes her grandmother seem a bit more mysterious. I guess it's strange to me that there's really only one completely normal person in the team, and that's Ageha. Kabaton was a funny villain. I found him entertaining and the comedy didn't always hit, but it was fine. However, after 12 episodes, I was exhausted. Just like Delicious Party, there is no rotation of generals, and this is one of the worst trends in Precure, as they just don't carry the stakes of the show. It leaves these characters overexposed. There's a reason the Precure form early on in the show. Four girls give the writers time to explore different dynamics. One villain can never be explored in enough unique ways for 12 episodes. I think this is an unfortunate side effect of the approach they're taking with the cures. Maybe now they also want to space out the villains, but it only works for the cures because they're the main characters. The antagonists need to be switched up so it can remain interesting. Now I love Kabaton, but I feel it's just not enough. They set him up to be swapped out in episode 5 and 8, but sadly, it's not until last week's episode that they actually got rid of him. This will probably come out around episode 13, so I guess we'll meet the new one, and I'll let you know what I think about them. To be honest, we're long overdue on some villain lore, which could lead us down the path of Delicious Party. This is a series trend I hope to see broken. Ellie is by far the least interesting baby, mostly because we haven't had any baby shenanigan episodes. That will likely change soon, so we'll get to her later. For now, I think her hair and eye color are really great choices, but really she's just another baby. She could easily have been a non-human, a fairy. I don't care much, so I'm not gonna dwell on this. Hirogaru Sky has examined what exactly it means to be a hero. Episode 1 demonstrates that through Sora. She's brave and selfless. Even when she's scared, she's willing to fight for what's right, and most recently, even willing to save her own enemies. But that's not all we learn from her. Through Mashiro and Tsubasa, we also get to see that teamwork matters. Everyone here plays a unique role. Sora needs saving when Mashiro awakens. When both girls are together, there are still foes they can't defeat, like the UFO. That's where Tsubasa comes in because he can fly. I'm curious about what Hage will have, but I can see that as an adult, she already gets them to drive around, which is pretty useful for the story. There is also an emphasis on the distance between people throughout each episode. First, it's between Ellie and Skyland, then Sora and her family, Mashiro and her parents, and even Mashiro with Ageha. It's clear the sky is seen as something unreachable, and so it represents the distance between our characters and those that they love. A really beautiful way to interpret a relatively simple theme. Almost fittingly, there's a bunch of birds kinda losing it outside my window, but hopefully that will pass. I hope to see this theme further explored as the season goes on. Despite this, during Yui and Tsubasa's episode, we also see the minor theme of food bringing people together. It's a little random, but once again, I don't mind them taking the good parts of Delicious Party and using them in this season. Now it's time to talk about my favorite part of the season, stock footage. When I first saw the Skytone, I was expecting a singing transformation with heroic music like Yes 5, Doki Doki, and even Cure Finale's theme. The music has grown on me as the build-up from an empty tune into the fuller sound at the split screen is really hype. However, I've heard better, and after 2 seasons of better, I can say this season's transformation music was a step down. Music aside, I really like the sequences, especially their vivid decorated backgrounds. I always love when they do this ever since Hugto. I've been waiting for them to just throw random stuff in the background to make it really pretty. It's amazing. Each Cure sequence fits their personality, but Prism's is by far the worst, with Sky's being the most energetic. I can just tell by looking at Prism's that it doesn't look as fluid or thought out, some parts look incomplete, and you really start to notice when they do a group transformation and her bits are just not as good as everyone else's. I get that it kinda does fit her personality, but it was way less noticeable with Asuka's transformation, so I know they can do limited movement a lot better than this. I like how much Wing flies about, and all the motion when he's involved make his design flow a lot better to me. I especially love the group ending, where Sky lands decisively, Prism lands carefully, and Wing gets to soar a little before landing later than the rest. It's a really bland group pose since they're just in a field and then in the sky, but it's been a good amount of seasons since we've had a group pose that was really worth looking at. I think Healing Good was alright with the beautiful colors in the background, kinda abstract, but other than that, I don't think group poses have been amazing for the past few seasons, so seems like that's another trend we're building on. The direction chosen for the attacks seems really versatile this season. Despite it being stock footage, they feel like organic parts of the fight scene. They flow in and out pretty smoothly, and the moves make sense as finishers. The duo finisher is alright, I think it's just snappy, which people don't like. We're used to group attacks which are pretty slow and drawn out, and after Delicious Party I'm not surprised. That season had one of the best group attacks and some of the worst, with all the button pressing and the wind up. I think the animation is fluid, and I don't mind the strange platform making a return. They just send the foe to heaven, which is pretty iconic to me. It's fine, it could have been a lot worse, but I do hope we get something more grand and aesthetically ambitious for the final group attack. Based on our current pace, I can see Agaha joining the team around episode 17, and we might get Ellie as a cure later on, but who knows. I'm hoping we get to see the main villain and Sora's family soon. Perhaps in episode 14. We've had some good lore from the Sky Kingdom, but I just hope they won't neglect their villains either. Since the Magical Kingdom isn't taken over, they're gonna have to develop it as a setting, as well as giving the villains a place to come from. Overall, I'm really enjoying this season. For once, I'm actually motivated to watch the episodes as soon as they're available, and with that said, let me know your thoughts on this season, and be sure to stick around for more coverage of Hirogaru Sky Precure. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.